You know, this particular story might finally answer the question, how much technobabble can we really cram into one story? Classic Who review time, and I am taking some time to work with the fifth Doctor, Peter Davison, who I am on record as not being a huge fan of. So, you know, me going through some of the classic stories with him that I haven't seen is a chance for me to try and get a better opinion of the guy. So today I'm taking a look at Arc of Infinity, the 4-part story which saw the return, well, spoilers if you haven't seen it, okay, which saw the return of the villain Omega. And it has its ups and downs. It seems to constantly be counteracting good things with not so good things. It's a bit of a push and pull as it goes along. I suppose I'll start with the Doctor himself. Now, I've said in the past, Peter Davison doesn't really work for me a lot of the time because I feel like he's detached. I don't get a real sense of genuineness from him, and oftentimes that doesn't work for me. That specific aspect, while still present here, is working for me a little better than it usually does. I think there's something about his performance that when he comes across cold in his delivery, I feel like I'm getting a glimpse of what's behind that. So that normal sense I get of, you know, he's just kind of putting on an act, I'm still getting, but I'm not feeling like it's an act for the sake of an act. I'm feeling like, oh, there's a little bit of discomfort, of, you know, nervousness, of, you know, I feel like I can see past the act to what's actually behind it a bit more here than I usually feel like when I'm watching Davison. So this is one of the better performances from him that I've seen in classic era. So that works pretty well. Nyssa, boy, you know, I actually kind of like Nyssa, or at the very least, I want to like Nyssa. The show didn't seem to like Nyssa. She just kind of hung around for a while, and she's just kind of there, and that's very much the case here. She's not a bad companion, she's not a detriment, she's not Adric, but at the same time, she feels like a placeholder. She feels like insert companion here. It could be anybody. It almost never feels like there's anything unique about her that's being brought to the table, which is what you get from the best companions. Now, the other one we get in here is Tegan, who is a character who at the very least has a lot more personality than Nyssa tends to have. Unfortunately, this story really goes through some convoluted stuff to get the plot moving along. There's a lot of staggering coincidences. Tegan showing up is the first big one. Like, she was gone. She was done. She had bowed out from the show. And I don't know the behind the scenes, you know, if she just wanted a month off or something. But I know that narratively, Tegan was done traveling in the TARDIS, but now she happens to stumble across it in a really contrived manner, because it's not even like the Earth location that's tied into everything that's going on is somewhere that she has any business being. She's from Australia. This takes place in Amsterdam, but by sheer bloody coincidence, she happens to be there at the time this is all going down. And bringing her in isn't initially part of the villain's plan either, so it is literally just coincidence that she shows up. And that just kind of bugs me. But at the same time, I don't dislike Tegan. I actually kind of like Tegan. I like her attitude. She's feisty. As far as some of the other stuff that's a bit up and down, Omega himself. I'm gonna, look, don't hit me on the pronunciation. I'm American. I'm gonna say Omega, even though they pronounce it Omega. That I have to force myself to say it like that. I'll try, but I'm gonna slip up. Just give me a break. I liked him a lot better in Three Doctors than here. And now I like him in general as a villain. I like his whole conceit. I like that he has a pretty genuine and justifiable beef with the Time Lords, and that really he really just kind of wants to exist in this universe again, because he's stuck in this antimatter universe where he doesn't belong and there's nothing for him there. And you know, I think a villain that you can understand where they're coming from can oftentimes lead to some of the best villains. I mean, just villains who are just nuts, that can be fun too, but someone you're like, yeah, I get that. That can be really nice to have, especially in a show like Doctor Who, where a lot of the recurring villains just kind of slot under various flavors of crazy, like Davros and the Master and so on. So I like him in general, and I liked him a lot in the Three Doctors, but there's a few things wrong with this one. The first is, I don't like the redesign. First off, I think he was way more iconic, for lack of a better word, in his look in his previous appearance than he is here. It just kind of, it's not even a bad head design, but it's just like, I don't know where to focus. I don't know what to look at. I don't know, you know, I'm just sort of looking at the designs of it and going, okay, I can't pick a point of focus, and that's kind of a little bit distracting. Also, I don't know if they had the same performer like for the voice. I don't think so, but he comes across, for lack of a better term, whinier here. He doesn't feel as intimidating. He doesn't feel as in control as he did in the Three Doctors. So he just isn't clicking as a villain overall the way he did in his last appearance. They do still do some interesting things that I like, and I kind of wish they'd done more with. The fact that when he, you know, actually has a non-antimatter body briefly, that he basically stole the Doctor's shape. You know, he looks just like him, but when he speaks, he has the voice of Omega. I wish they'd done more with that. I wish that hadn't been second half of the last episode kind of thing. I kind of wish we gotten more time with that, because first of all, honestly, Peter Davison was nicely off-putting playing that part. There's this really weird scene that I'm not sure I like the scene overall, but this is a really weird scene where he's wandering around Amsterdam and he's seeing, I don't even know what it is. It looks like a puppet show, kinda, but he's looking down at this kid, and this kid's looking up at him, and he just sort of has this grin, and it's really unsettling. It's really unnerving. It's very undoctor, and I really kind of wish that Peter Davison had more time to work with that and to play that part for longer. Because I feel like there was a lot more that could have been gotten out of that, but we don't get much. We get like maybe 10 minutes worth on that, which is a shame, and I feel like that's a bit of a waste. With the Time Lords, well, first of all, they've got some good actors involved. They got Michael Gough, or Gough. I never know how to pronounce the guy's last name. He was Alfred in the '89 Batman, and he's awesome. He's always awesome, and he's been on Doctor Who before. He was a villain way back when, but he's great, and just his voice was wonderful, and he's always a great presence. I called really early on that he was going to be the traitor, that he was going to be the one working with Omega, and that's not the fault of this story. It's just, it's such a cliche that when a hero is in a situation where like, oh, everyone's against me, but you, my old friend, you have my back. It's like, no, that's the traitor. That's what always happens. And that's not unique to Doctor Who. That's a general storytelling cliche. Having Lord President Borusa, having Borusa come back as a character, I think was a good idea. I'm really annoyed with the fact that Borusa has 4 appearances in Classic Who, and it's a different actor every time. And I know they're allowed to do that because you can just say he regenerated every time. And in fact, they do say that here. They say that flat out. But bringing the character back when he's never the same guy, the same actor, honestly, it loses the weight of even bringing him back in the first place. It's a completely new guy. And I also get to a certain extent that, you know, back then they weren't really rerunning these things after they aired, and there was a decent chance that people watching it when the new one aired didn't even see it last time they showed up. So it wasn't a huge loss for the viewers at the time when it was a new person. But you know, for me as some, I can understand that intellectually, but that's not the perspective I come at this from. I come at this from being now and being able to watch these things, you know, the ones that haven't been lost forever, whenever I want. And from that perspective, it's annoying that it's always a different guy. I don't know what to tell you. Colin Baker, he was fine in his sort of military Time Lord part. It was weird seeing him. It was extra weird because I'm watching that performance going, you know, there's nothing about that makes me think, I bet he'd make a good doctor. Of course he didn't. Well, not initially anyway. He's significantly better in the audios. But yeah, that's just kind of an odd thing. I'm also going to pause and talk about something that didn't bug me, but I feel like if I don't talk about it, I'm going to get called out on it. Which is that in the resolution, the Doctor shoots Omega. And I feel like if I don't address that, and the fact that I'm more or less okay with that, somebody is going to point out that when I did my very angry rant about Hellbent in my worst episodes written by Stephen Moffat list, that one of the things I pointed out there was how ticked off I was that the Doctor shot somebody. He shot Time Lord, who then regenerated. Now, the reason I'm okay with this and not okay with that is basically twofold. Circumstances are completely different, because here, we're in Arc of Infinity, we are dealing with a situation where if this guy is not killed, he is going to destroy and kill billions of people, possibly billions of worlds, and he's also going to die no matter what. So the options are do nothing, he dies, and a ton of people, other people die, or kill him and he's the only one who dies. So first off, I think the situation, it's much more warranted that the Doctor did what he did. That's the first thing, because in Hellbent, that he's literally trying to save one person. He's not saving the universe. It's not for the greater good. It's for his own selfish... Okay, not getting into that. But then the other thing is just where he is in his life. There's... what, 7? There's a lot of incarnations that he's going to go from Peter Davison until he's doing Peter Capaldi. So I don't have a problem with this, or say John Pertwee, you know, using his Venusian Aikido, even though I don't particularly care for that. I'm not like, the Doctor should never do that. Like, it's earlier in the guy's life. I'm okay with him having dipped into that earlier in his life. By the time we get to Capaldi, the no weapons, no guns thing specifically has been much more rigid for a really long stretch of time. It's okay with me that there was a point where he was more willing to bend or break that, but once he hit a point where he kind of established that he wasn't going to bend or break that anymore, you kind of need to stick to it, in my mind, or at least that's my feeling. So that's that tangent done with. Oh, the other really dumb coincidence, because Tegan's the big larger story. The in the moment coincidence that made me really roll my eyes is when Omega's minion thing, the weird beaky, statuey, I'm not sure what they are, thing, you know, tries to shoot the Doctor, and the Doctor just happens to bend down and duck. That just annoys me. That's one of the things that really betrays that this was kind of going on at a period where they really did treat this as a kids show, not a family show, but a kids show, because that's a Saturday morning cartoon save. I think the other thing I want to mention is production design was actually pretty good on this. While I'm not in love with the design of Omega's helmet, it looks pretty good. His minions move a little wonky, but the design is pretty good. The sets and the props are a lot more solid. and a lot more well designed than I am used to seeing for this time period in Doctor Who. I'm used to wobblier sets. I'm used to it just looks like something wrapped in tinfoil kind of production design. And this looked better than a lot of the color era Doctor Who that I've seen, which can really go either way a lot of the times. I think in many ways, switching to color was kind of rough on the show due to its budgetary restrictions. But this is one of the better looking episodes, I think. Although the visualization of the Matrix is kind of cheesy, but it gets the job done as far as that goes. All the performances are pretty good. I mean, even Omega isn't a bad performance. I just don't like it when I think back to what it was I liked about him as a villain back in The Three Doctors. So I think that's about it. This is just kind of a fine story for me, and that's not because like it left no impact on me. It's not like it's mediocre and it's just white noise throughout the whole thing. It's just that the things that I like are counterbalanced by things that I'm like, or the things that I like, I feel like there could have been more of it. You could have done more with it. Could have milked those aspects more, but it didn't. So, this is not one I'm going to be in a rush to watch again anytime soon, but I am glad I saw it. So those are my thoughts on the Arc of Infinity. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. There's all the stuff to do. Support me on Patreon, where you actually get to help choose what these classic era episodes I'm going to review are. I take polls of my patrons. There's also a bunch of other stuff, Twitter, and you can buy t-shirts, etc., etc. Links for all that stuff's down in the description. So until next time, this council is adjourned.